Hi guys, welcome back. My name is Scott, and today I'm really excited to bring this model to you. We're painting the Red Gobbo and his friend Bounca the Squig. You know I love squigs and I love orcs and I love painting them. And I'm really excited for this model because it's just got a lot of personality and it's really just kind of a fun, silly model. So let's go ahead and dive in to how I've painted it. To get this model ready for painting, I've primed it using Wraithbone spray primer from Citadel. Now the first thing we're going to do on this model is paint the inside of the mouth, and we're going to use Genestealer Purple for this. Now the mouth is pretty deep on this model, so make sure you use a longer brush, that way you can get the paint all the way to the back of the throat. Now once that's dried, we're going to use Contrast Volupus Pink, and we're going to shade this all over the mouth. Now normally I would thin this down with water, but in this case I chose to just put it on straight from the pot. Just make sure you evenly distribute this across the mouth. Now once that's done, we're going to take Karak Stone, and we're going to paint this all over the belly of the squig. Now in my case, I also chose to have this go all the way up around the eyes of the model. That way there'd be a difference between the skin behind the nose and the red nose that I plan to do later on. Now for the red on the squig, we're going to use Mephiston Red, and this is going to serve as our base color for the skin of the squig. Now you can do whatever patterning you want on the squig. If you don't want to do the tan belly like I am doing, just go ahead and paint the whole squig with this red color. With both our base colors down, we're now going to use Reikland Fleshshade, and we're going to wash this all over the flesh of the squig. Now you can go nice and heavy on this. This is going to serve as a guide to help us know where the recesses of the muscles are at, so that we can highlight them in the next few steps. Our first highlight is going to be Rakarth Flesh, and we're going to paint this on the belly of the squig. And our focus here is to paint this on the raised surfaces of the flesh. We're trying to leave the recesses darker to kind of give definition to the muscles and the rolls of flesh on the belly of the squig. Now for the red, our first highlight is going to be Evil Sunz Scarlet. And just like with the belly, we're focusing on getting all the raised muscle surfaces, and we're leaving the recesses where the shade is pooled up with the darker colors. Our next layer of highlighting is going to be Wild Rider Red, and we're doing this very similar to how we did the last layer, except we're not going to paint as much surface area. This time we're just focusing on the areas where the light would catch the most on the muscles. With our red skin all done, we're going to take Zandri Dust and we're going to go through and highlight each of the warts or moles that are on the skin of the squig. Now we're going to use Reikland Fleshshade, and we're going to wash this over all of the red skin that we've just painted. This is going to serve to blend the colors together and also seal it in so that we don't chip it off as we're handling the model for the rest of this project. To save time on this video, I'm not going to show you how I paint the skin of the goblin, and that's just because I've done that in previous videos, so if you'd like to see how I did that, go check out my video, How to Paint Orc Skin. Now that the squig is done, we're going to begin painting the goblin. We're going to start with Abaddon Black, and we're going to use this to paint his pants and his boots, and then we're also going to paint the claws of the squig using this color. Once the black is dried, we're going to use Dark Reaper to edge highlight the boots and pants of the model. Now we're going to use Dawnstone, and we're going to highlight the edges of the claws. In addition to these edge highlights, you're also going to do a few random stripes going up the claw. Now it's time to begin working on the coat and hat of the Gobbo. We're going to use Khorne Red as the base color for this, and we're using a different shade of red from the Squig because we want it to be more of a crimson color. We also want it to just not look the same as the Squig, so that the model is a little bit more impressive and there's more to look at. We're going to shade the coat using Carroburg Crimson. This is just going to darken down the coat as a whole. It's a red shade, so it's going to continue to kind of enhance the red that we've already put there. Now we're going to go back to the Khorne Red, and we're just going to use this to kind of clean up the raised edges of the coat. This is also going to bring back the original crimson color that we were shooting for with this. Now we're going to grab Mephiston Red, and we're going to use this to edge highlight the coat. Now this is an edge highlight that is focused on just the most raised edges of the coat, and it's just meant to kind of represent where the light is catching the most on the coat. Now we're going to begin working on the beard and the kind of fur trim that's on the coat of the model. Now we're starting with Gray Seer, and this is just kind of meant to serve as a base coat. It's an off-white, and it's going to serve as the foundation for our white highlights that we're going to do in the next few steps. Our first highlight on the beard is going to be Corax White, and we are just highlighting the individual hairs of the beard. And when you get around to the hat, you're just kind of dotting the most raised bumps on the fur and hat. Our second highlight is going to be done with White Scar. This is going to be pretty much the same as the first highlight. Using these three colors is going to create a nice transition where it's going to be very subtle, but it is going to be gray in the recesses and white on the most raised surfaces. Now it's time to return to the Squig, and we're going to use Ionrack Skin. We're going to paint the teeth of the Squig. We're also going to get the antlers that the goblin is holding on to. Once that color has dried, we're going to use Athonian Camoshade to shade the teeth and the antlers. With the shade all dried, we're going to use Flayed One Flesh, and we're going to edge highlight the teeth and the antlers using this color. Now we're going to go through with Lead Belcher, and we're going to begin picking out the different Christmas ornament balls that are hanging off of the cord that's coming out of the mouth of the Squig. There's also one on his tail, and a couple other spots on the model. We're also going to pick out any earrings or metal parts that are on the model. Once the Lead Belcher is dried, we're going to use Nuln Oil to shade all the metal parts of the Squig. Now it's important to note we are not going to be using this shade on any of the Christmas balls. We want to leave those as bright as possible. Now we're going to use Stormhost Silver, and we're going to pick out the spots on the Christmas balls where the light catches the most. This is going to come in handy for the next step, where we're going to use contrast paint to create a metallic appearance to these Christmas balls. Now we're going to take Contrast Warp Lightning, and we're going to paint this on half of the Christmas balls. Now, if you didn't know this before, if you paint a contrast paint over a metallic paint, the result will be the contrast color coming out as a metallic. With that color done, we're now going to take the other half of the Christmas balls and paint them using Contrast Blood Angels Red. This is going to create the same metallic effect that we did with the green, but this time in red. Now we're going to focus on some of the side details of the model. We're going to use Dryad Bark, and we're going to pick out the little tree that is behind the Squig. We're also going to pick out the fuse, and there's a couple straps that are holding his fake beard onto his head. With that in place, we're now going to pick out some of the straps that are on the Squig. We're going to use Morghast Bone for this. Now there are straps on the end of his tail. There's also some holding some of the antlers on. Once the Morghast Bone is dried, we're going to use Agrax Eartshade, and we're going to just wash this on all of the spots that we did the Morghast Bone. Now it's time to begin painting the nose. We're going to use Wazdakka Red as the base color for this. Now, once again, we're using a different shade of red for the base because we want it to look different from the other two red color schemes that we've done on the model. And our goal here is to make this nose look like it's got a minor glow effect to it. We're going to highlight the top of the nose using Evil Sunz Scarlet. Now we're not going all the way to the very back of the nose, we're just trying to get the front part to create a transition from the darker to a brighter red. Now we're going to put a second layer of highlighting even more towards the front of the nose than the previous layer, and we're going to use Wild Rider Red for this. Once that red is dried, we're going to use Wraithbone, and we're just going to put a couple dots at the very front of the nose. And this is meant to represent the spots where the light is radiating from on the nose. Once we've allowed that white to dry, we're going to take a color called Bloodletter Glaze. Now this is a glaze paint which Games Workshop discontinued, unfortunately. But we're just going to paint this on the nose. It's going to start to blend the different reds together, and we're also going to paint it around the nose. And this is going to give the appearance of light radiating off of the nose. Now that the nose is done, we're going to start picking out some of the yellow details on the model. We're going to use Averland Sunset for this. We're going to use this on the stars that are spread across the model. We're also going to use this for the eyes of the Squig and the Christmas lights that are on the cord coming out of the Squig's mouth. Once that yellow is dried, we're going to use Casandora Yellow to shade all of the stars and the eyes and the light bulbs. While that shade is drying, we're going to take a little detour and we're just going to use some contrast Talazar Blue, and we're just going to put a dot in each of the lenses of the Gobbo's goggles. Once that contrast is dried, we're going to use Temple Guard Blue, and we're going to put an even smaller dot in the center of each goggle lens. Now we're going to come back to our yellow, and we're going to use Uriel Yellow, and we're going to edge highlight the star. We're also going to highlight the very tips of each of the light bulbs using this color. While we're still working on the yellow, we're going to really quickly take Abaddon Black and just put a dot in the center of each eye to represent the pupils. Now we're going to go through and we're going to paint the smoke coming off of the Gobbo's stick of dynamite. And we're just going to use Dawnstone for this. You'll notice I put a little bit of yellow at the base of the smoke. That's meant to represent the sparks where the fuse is currently burning. Once that gray is dried, we're going to take Nuln Oil and we're just going to do a nice heavy shade on the smoke. And the heavier you go, the more it's going to appear like something is actually burning here. While that shade is drying, we're going to go through with Warpstone Glow. We're going to draw the spirals that are seen on the box art going down the stick of dynamite. We're also going to paint the leaves that are on the tree behind the squig, as well as the electrical cord that is connecting the different Christmas lights. The final thing we're going to do on the Gobbo is take Administratum Gray, and we're going to dry brush this on the smoke. This is meant to just catch the most raised edges of the smoke. The Red Gobbo comes with a scenic base, and it's meant to look like it's snow, so we're just going to take a contrast Apothecary White, and we're just going to wash this all over the base plate anywhere that there is snow. And you can go nice and heavy on this if you'd like, but I recommend going a little bit lighter. Once that contrast is dried, we're going to quickly go through with White Scar, and we're just going to dry brush this on the surface of the snow. And this is going to give the snow the appearance of being very white, pure, and clean. And with that, we've finished the Red Gobbo. Thank you so much for watching today. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, go ahead and like it, and then subscribe to my channel so you can see future videos. And then go ahead and comment and let me know what kind of cool projects you're going to be working on during the holiday season. As always, have an amazing day, and we'll see you in the next one.